oysters right from the ocean, half pints of Guinness, and a whiskey distillery in a jail. This week, we're in Northern Ireland and on the Wild Atlantic Way with Mickela Mallozzi.
Traveling the world to bring you delicious dishes, tasty beverages, and interesting experiences. This is the Destination Eat Drink Podcast on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
I'm Brent Peterson. Welcome to Destination Eat Drink, the travel podcast for foodies. Destination Eat Drink is for foodies who like to travel and travelers who love to eat. And this week, we're talking with Mickela Mallozzi about Northern Ireland and the Wild Atlantic Way in Ireland. But first, do me a favor, rate and review the podcast on your podcast app. It just takes a second and helps all those foodie travelers out there find the show. And if you want to support Destination Eat Drink, you can do that at buymeacoffee.com. You can drop me a couple of bucks to help the show or buy one of my foodie travel ebooks. The Portugal Guide is the best value, just $9.99 for 17 foodie guides to cities and towns all over Portugal. Get yours at buymeacoffee.com/Destination Eat Drink. And thank you very much. Mickela Mallozzi is a bundle of creative energy. She's the award-winning creator, producer, and host of the PBS TV series Bare Feet with Mickela Mallozzi. The show's website is travelbarefeet.com, and the show's 7th season is airing right now on PBS. Mickela and I talk about her adventures in Ireland, including visiting a repurposed artist space wrecked during the Troubles, sitting in on a jam session of trad music, and the punk rock scene of Northern Ireland. Of course, we talk about Irish food along the way too, plus a little talk about New Zealand and the importance of accessibility. Okay, I'm starving, so let's eat.
Destination Eat Drink.
Mickela Mallozzi from Bare Feet. Welcome back to Destination Eat Drink. I'm so glad to have you back on the show to talk about the new season of Bare Feet.
Obrigada. I know you're in Portugal, Brent. This is how many times have you had me on, which I'm so grateful.
We must be on at least the 6th time.
Yeah.
So It's just, I don't know that I got you in the first season, but I think I pretty much have got you every time since then. And we also had you on for your special that you did on the Guadalupe Islands. So it's probably been at least 6 times. And we got you live in Lisbon a couple of times too. That was so much fun.
That was so fun. Yeah. It's what's amazing. And I think we've talked about this before is making friends abroad and doing these things. Like I genuinely love seeing you in person, but I love seeing you over Zoom. But we got to meet up and have drinks and have a meal and then off the microphones, have a wonderful evening with your partner. And it was just like the best. It was the best.
It was so much fun.
And so when we like converse over email and like, oh yeah, let's do another one of these. And hopefully I'll be back in Portugal or we'll meet somewhere in the world. And that's the beauty of all of this.
With that in mind, we just got back from a month-long road trip in Italy. And there were multiple times when I got to meet up with folks from this podcast, and it was just like, let's grab a coffee, let's grab, whatever. Yeah. And it's just so nice to be able to sit down with a person and, just get to talk to them and get to know them a little bit better face to face. But I did want to bring that up first and foremost because part of our trip was in Puglia, one of my favorite parts of Italy. And when we were I think it was in Lecce, I saw a bunch of paper mache figurines of women doing I call it the tarantula dance.
La pizzica.
Okay.
La pizzica. Yeah, that's it. La tarantella, la pizzica. Yep.
And I was thinking of you because it's such a big deal down there. And you had that on your show a few seasons ago. It was one of the early seasons, I think, right?
Yeah, it was season 3. It was our season premiere of season 3. And it's actually the cover image of the new cover image of our show where I'm doing pizzica with Canzoniere Grecanico Salentino who are based in Lecce. So you were at the heart of that style of dance. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful city.
Love it.
Oh my gosh, I'm jealous. I want to go back. What did you eat there? What was your favorite?
Okay, so we love Lecce. My favorite in Puglia was Bari.
Bari was amazing. That's where we did our food tour, actually. It was in Bari.
Food there is incredible. And it's, it's not fancy, but, you get the orecchiette. We got some orecchiette from the pasta grannies.
Pasta grannies, yeah.
We got the focaccia barese, which is amazing and had some really funny times there.
Good.
What else do we have in Bari? We had lots of good stuff, and I got scammed on my cell phone repair too. So.
Oh no! Yeah, that sounds about right. You're in Italy,
exactly.
I'm Italian. I feel like I can say that. It's fine.
So it was good. So I wanted to talk to you about the new season, and you spent quite a bit of time in Ireland, and you did one great episode on the Wild Atlantic Way. For folks who don't know, where is the Wild Atlantic Way in Ireland exactly?
Yeah, so the Wild Atlantic Way is the entire western coast that goes down from Kinsale all the way up to Malin Head. It's literally the bottom tip of the island of Ireland, all the way up to County Donegal, so County Cork, all along the Atlantic coast. And it is stunning. The southwestern part of the Wild Atlantic Way, I know very well. I work with the Dingle Peninsula. We did an episode called Wild Atlantic Way for season 3. And then for season 7, we decided let's do the Wild Atlantic Way northern part. So Sligo, Donegal, and it is wild. It is absolutely wild because you have these, Cliffs of Moher are part of the Wild Atlantic Way, just to give you an idea of what it feels like, what it looks like. It's rugged. There's incredible fish. There's incredible music. It's the Gaeltacht, which is like where they speak Irish in some parts in Donegal, in Southwest Kerry. And it's just gorgeous. It's like why I fell in love with Ireland, why I keep falling in love with Ireland. I'll be speaking at TBEX. I'll be keynoting at TBEX in Donegal, and that's part of the Wild Atlantic Way. But they started that campaign calling it the Wild Atlantic Way 10 years ago. It just celebrated its 10-year anniversary. And it really is, if you go along the coast, you'll see this sign that has like a wiggly wave and a W that goes a couple times. So you're along the Wild Atlantic Way. But you just look at the coast. You're on the coast.
There's no mistaking it.
There's no mistake. And you know what? It feels a lot like the coasts of Portugal.
Yes.
Right? There's surfing. It's very similar terrain and feel. A little bit colder, just a little bit, but it's the Atlantic Ocean. So it's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
But it's stunning and there's amazing food. And we got to go to Sligo oysters, the Sligo oyster experience.
How were the oysters?
Oh, they were gorgeous. We had them in the shop, and then we were able to go to the oyster bed before high tide was coming in. We had about 45 minutes. We were getting nervous because the van had to drive out onto the water. Oh. And Aisling is the wife, and her husband Glenn. She manages the cafe, and she was our guide. And then her husband Glenn, who's hilarious. If you see him in the video, he's kind of your typical Irish, like, very cheeky, but also like super dry humor, salt of the earth, literally. And, they're out there. I was shaking the oyster bags, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. And the oysters were beautiful. They're gorgeous, gorgeous. And they've opened the cafe. You can have more than just oysters there, but they wanted to have a place where you could actually have the oysters, because a lot of them are exported, right? A lot of them are exported to France. But they were like, we want people here in Sligo to have a taste of the place. Sligo, I forget how you say it in Escuela, in Gaelic, but it means shelly place because there were so much shellfish. Yeah. Yeah. So, but Sligo itself, I'd never been. I'd never been to the northern part of the Republic of Ireland. It was my first time. And these episodes that we did, it was all places I had never been to before, even cool. Like personally, I've never been. And Sligo is such a cool little town. I think it's a hidden gem. And I'm not just saying that, like, we got there and we're like, this is the coolest. There's a river that runs right through. It's so sweet. There's all these little cafes and pubs, and there's a river through it. You're by the water. It's a cool town, really cool town. And everyone is so nice. In Ireland, everyone's so nice.
Yes.
They're the best. They're the best.
We were watching the show, me and Karen, and you were in a place called Farren's Bar. And Karen, Mickela, you ordered a half pint of Guinness. So you got the little glass, and Karen goes, yeah, see, she's just like me. She gets the half pint. Because, I always tease Karen when she gets the little half pint.
I am a glass, it's so funny because up north, well, I guess in Northern Ireland, they don't call it a glass, but in the rest of Ireland, you call it a glass of Guinness is a half pint, right? And that's what they used to serve for women back in the day. Mm-hmm. I love half pints because I'm a bit of a slow Guinness drinker. And if I got a full pint, by the time I would get halfway through, it'd be warm and flat. And so my trick is I get the half pint and I'm good for the day. P.S. That half pint was the best Guinness. And I love Guinness. That was the best Guinness I've ever had in my life. Because we had, it was pretty cold and we were biking for a while, and our crew, they were in this van. And so we were trying to meet them at Farren's, and the driver didn't know the area and got a little lost. So we're waiting there in the cold and driving around trying to find them. So by the time we got there, I was like, I just want a Guinness. Like I needed something. And it was like it just left this beautiful creamy film, and that's when you know it's a really good Guinness. And we just down as soon as we got that cilantro, I was like, I need that Guinness.
You've been biking, you're tired, and
it was a lot. I was freezing. So it was freezing. I was a little underdressed because we weren't expecting to be out for so long, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. But also the taps are running all the time. I think it's one of the few bars they said that has a 23-hour license. Oh. So they're only closed for 1 hour of the day because the fishermen, they're going out so early and they need to come in for pints, of course. Yeah. So they're open 23 hours. It's crazy. So the taps are always running. That's what makes a good Guinness. You don't want to go, any Guinness isn't the same. It's because if the taps keep running and they're getting a lot of airflow, then your Guinness is going to be nice and frothy and beautiful. And I've learned this because I keep going back to Ireland and I love Ireland, and I just had to do my research. Right.
Got to put the work in, Mickela.
But it's a miraculous bar. It literally is the most northerly bar in all of Ireland, on the island of Ireland. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
We're heading to Ireland in a couple of weeks here. We're meeting some friends in Dublin, but then we're going to Northern Ireland, and I have never been before, and we don't have much time, so we're just going to Belfast. But you did a couple episodes in Northern Ireland. You did one that was more expansive, and then one that was focused just on Belfast. Northern Ireland in general. Tell me about that. What was that like? It doesn't sound like you had spent too much time there prior to filming.
I'd never been to Northern Ireland. I had never been north of Connemara or Dublin, kind of if you cut across Galway. Never been north. So again, Sligo, Donegal is on the northern part of the Republic. Mm-hmm. And then we popped over and went to Derry. Derry's a cool city. It's a beautiful old medieval walled city.
We're going to go there
Derry
someday.
Girls.
I was going to ask you, have you seen Derry Girls? I love that show. It's so funny.
I love Derry Girls. And I've become friends with the actress who plays the mother, Tara Lynn. And I met her at an event here when they listed Belfast as UNESCO listed as a city of music officially a few years ago. So that's really why Belfast kind of came on our list, because we're like, well, this is amazing. We need to go there. We were in Derry and met with Chef Noel McNeill, who is a wonderful chef. He was a former competitive Irish dancer, so it was wonderful guy to meet. Yeah. And he gave us sort of this new take on Irish food. And I think when people think of Irish food, they really think of potatoes and corned beef and cabbage, or, things that Irish people don't really eat, or maybe they did and they don't anymore. That's for sure. Or it's Irish American style food. You go to Ireland and the fish is so fresh. I always get chowder. I love chowder. Think of a Boston chowder or clam chowder. It's that, but with salmon and mussels and clams and all everything. But that's the original chowder, right? It's the local fish all put in this chowder. It's beautiful. And we went in Northern Ireland. You have this fresh fish, but Chef Noel McNeill gave us this dish. It was scallops with a take on black pudding, which is blood pudding. The Irish do potatoes like no other. Like no other. You will get so many varieties of potatoes. I love potatoes. And it's just, there's local Irish cheeses. There's incredible pop-ups of new distilleries. So McConnell's distillery is now in an old jail that's been repurposed into this new distillery. It was actually one of the oldest distilleries, Irish whiskey distilleries in Ireland, in all of Ireland. And then during Prohibition, it was closed down because they were mainly exporting to the United States. So when Prohibition hit, a ton of Irish distilleries closed down. And then over the years, they've rebirthed this space and this brand, and it's gorgeous whiskey. You can do a full tour. You can do a tasting. They do a beautiful Irish coffee that we did while we were there as well, because we had a bit of a late night the night out in Belfast the night before. But it's amazing. Belfast is this city, and I think you're going to feel it when you get there. There's this like palpable kind of grittiness to it. It kind of feels like Dublin maybe 20 years ago, where a lot of artists have moved into spaces that were either derelict. And I'm sure you saw in the Off the Rails dance company, I'm dancing in this space called The Vault, which was a abandoned and sort of destroyed building during the Troubles. And so these artists have been going into these spaces, repurposing these spaces and investing in rebuilding these spaces and opening them to the arts community. So it's a really beautiful time. We also went to, not on camera, but we went to a place, go to Kelly's Cellars, which is a really cool pub, old pub. And my crew and I, we had a long day, and then we went out for a pint, and we happened upon this pub, and it was just like, you had the span of age, people making music together and singing together and dancing together was like 15 to 95. Yeah, right. And like everything in between. And I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. And there was a live band playing, and I saw a tambourine, and I started playing tambourine with them. I mean, it felt so wild and free and like no rules kind of. It was, but at the same time, like everyone, there's so much creativity. There's so many murals everywhere. There are a lot of murals, like political murals. Right. But they're also very artistic and like peace forward murals. Right. So I think this new generation, what we found is a lot of folks don't really care if you're Protestant or Catholic. The younger generation, like, we just want good education. I want food on the table for my family. I want to be able to have affordable housing. I want to have a job. Yeah. That's what's important to me. I don't care if you're Protestant. I don't care if you're Catholic and I'm not, or whatever. Like, can we just have these basic things that will help everybody? The other cool thing is, there's a huge Irish speaking population there. We went to Culture Lawn, which is this community center that's a part cafe, part gallery. They do a monthly all-female trad session that I was able to sit in on and play Bowron. Cool. Yeah, it was and great tea and great food, and it's just this sort of like congregation area. But it's the Gaeltacht, and there's like a Irish speaking in Belfast, and there's a new group. They've been in the headlines a lot. They're called Kneecap. They're a young group of guys. They're phenomenal. There's a lot of controversy around them, but they rap in Irish. And so they've kind of brought learning Irish to be cool for all these young kids. Now all these kids want to learn Irish around all of the island of Ireland. Their Kneecap is really setting that precedent. And Nisha, who is he's known as Mowgli in the group Kneecap, he grew up at the Culture Lawn Center because his father was a prominent Irish-speaking activist. He started this like pirate radio station in Irish in Belfast. It's really cool. So there's a lot of cool stuff. The Oh Yeah Music Center, the punk rock scene.
I was going to say, a lot of people don't know that punk rock in Northern Ireland and Belfast specifically was a huge thing. Huge. They might have heard of the Undertones or something like that, but there are so many great Northern Ireland punk rock bands from the 70s and the early 80s.
So many. And the thing about why I think punk rock really and the punk scene really thrived was because there was so much division. Yeah. And Protestant punks and Catholic punks came together because they were just punks, right? It was like, so that was this like grittiness and like dangerous idea of like, let's not fight about that. Let's just like, it was the rebellion against the British crown and claiming to be and identifying as Irish, right? But it was more about just the basic things that you need. Like we want access to peace, right? We don't want things being blown up in our face. So it was like music brought people together in this really cool way, of punk music of all things. Like, but punk's always been about like acceptance, anti-fascism, all this.
Yeah, anti-racism. And,
yeah.
And a lot of these kids I grew up in this era. A lot of these kids were outcasts anyway from their society. It's like, why are we going to exclude someone else when we're being excluded right here in our own community? So screw that. Exactly. Let's come together.
And that's exactly why it was like this sort of perfect storm. And Belfast was a perfect place for it. Yeah, there's so much music there. And no wonder, UNESCO lists acclaimed or has named Belfast a city of music. I think that was back in 2022, 23, pretty recently. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're very much looking forward to it, and I'll report back to you, Mickela, when we finish it. You mentioned earlier that you've got season 8 coming up in October. And what did you say? You went to New Zealand, one of my favorite places on the planet. You went to Taiwan, a place that's high on my list. I don't know when we will get there. Where else can we expect to see you dancing away?
And we're in Cuba too. So
Cuba, great.
Yeah. And we filmed in Cuba last October, prior to rules changing. I think for Americans, you can still go through the People to People program. But yeah, we were in Aotearoa in New Zealand with the Maori, in Tamaki Makaurau in Auckland. So we stayed with the iwi, with the tribe. We learned a lot of Te Reo Maori, the language, because it was natural. Like as we're talking to them, Dane was our kaitiaki, he's our guardian, and took us in. And there was a lot of pre-production and setting up, making sure that everyone felt comfortable with us being there, filming there. We had to go through ceremony, a hakapoferi, which means we're being welcomed by the tribe, and it's a very powerful ceremony. Right. We show that at the very beginning of our, because we're doing 2 episodes in Aotearoa. The first segment is that, because we want to establish, like, there's no way we can step foot in the rest of this iwi in the tribe until we're brought in. The food scene, we didn't really, we feature a garden. There's a community garden, and there is like a medicinal herbalist woman, and it's all about traditional medicines and traditional herbs that are used for cooking, for stomach aches, for lip balm, anywhere, anything. And it's like all these traditions are still alive, because they're really passing down the knowledge that they have from generation to generation. It's unbelievable that it's still, like, it could have been lost forever, just like the language. And funny enough, we were talking to them about their language, and they were saying, before, Te Reo Maori almost was lost. Now it's taught in schools. The language is written on signage, and we're celebrating Matariki. Matariki is the Maori New Year, based on the Lunar New Year and the stars, the constellations of the stars. And it was one of the first times, I think only 3 years ago, Matariki became a national holiday in Aotearoa in New Zealand. So it was a really big deal. And you would see Matariki signs everywhere in Auckland and Tamaki Makaurau. And that's huge for the Maori people to be recognized for a national holiday. I think it's the only Maori national holiday. So it was really, it was such an honor for us to be there and to be able to document it and share it with the iwi, because, with the tribe, because it's a poignant time for the year. It's when you say the names of those who've been lost for the past year, and they're put into the sky, right? So that they can, be set free from passing on to the next life. So it was a beautiful time. It's opposite
seasons.
Opposite season. So it was cold when we were there. It was winter.
Yeah.
We went in June. Yeah, but it was beautiful. And everyone there was so wonderful. Dane Tumahai, he was our kaitiaki, and I felt like it was a it wasn't a serendipitous meeting. I met him here in New York when they did sort of a trade show around the US. And there was something as soon as I met him and we had this connection, and I was like, he wasn't supposed to be our guide, our kaitiaki. And as the second I met him, I was like, Dane, I need you. We need to work together. I need you to be my guide on this journey.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I've never cried so much on a shoot. I cry a lot. You know, I cry a lot. But I was very emotional on this shoot. And the end, we're in the process of editing right now. So I'm like holding my breath to watch, because I don't see the footage until we start the editing process. My editors go through and sort the footage, but you know, I go through and I'm just like weeping, watching, reliving these moments with everybody, and not in a sense of a sad. It's more of like a beautiful connection.
Yeah.
And there was a moment where we had to say goodbye to Dane. You know, we had to. Eventually, we have to leave.
Yeah,
it's very sad.
Do you feel okay sharing that kind of stuff with the whole entire world, because everyone's going to see it? Do you feel vulnerable showing that kind of raw emotion?
Yeah. I mean, I'm very vulnerable in my show, in a lot of my show. Cuba, I have this crazy spiritual experience, and I'm crying, you know, with Juan Manuel, who was sort of our guide in that Orisha experience. You see me cry in Morocco. You see my family has this like funny game. They're like, every time Mickela cries, we have a drink, you know, and then they're like,
it's your family's version of Hi Bob.
to try and lighten up, you know, because they know I'm a Pisces. I'm very emotional. Like, I've always been that way. And I think there's a reason why people feel connected to the show, because of that vulnerability. And it's not put on. It's not put on. I think at first I felt a little apprehensive earlier seasons of like, I'm crying right now, and I don't know if I should show that, because as a journalist, you're not supposed to feel so connected.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's what travel is. Travel's transformative.
It's real.
If it moves you, let people see that it moves you. You know, it's not just going to a luxury resort and sitting, having a floating breakfast. Like, to me, that's not travel.
For some people, it is. For some people, that's what they want to do. And
that's fine.
And God bless them. Go do it.
Yeah.
But
that's fine. But that's not what I do. And there are plenty of people that show that. And so what I want to show is like me throwing up on the side of the boat when we're fishing for yellowfin tuna in the Cook Islands, right?
Right.
Or me crying my eyes out because I'm either, and a lot of times it's a multi-level thing of happening when I get emotional. I get emotional because sometimes it's a reality of like, I can't believe this is my life. I get to do this. I feel I'm lucky and privileged enough that I'm in this space, and people, I'm doing the haka on the pitch of Eden Park, right? Where the All Blacks play,
right.
the national rugby team
right.
of New Zealand.
Yeah. That
wasn't supposed to happen.
right.
Okay.
Right.
And when I say it wasn't supposed to happen, of course, like the stars are aligned. It was Matariki. We kept talking about it. We're like, this wasn't planned, but in the end, all of this was supposed to happen. Right. And I'm on the pitch and we're doing this. Haka's so powerful. The haka is this like guttural way of expressing power and identity and culture and your voice. And for the iwi to let me in and do the haka, and I'm on the pitch of Eden Park and we're dancing and it's freezing cold and we're barefoot and it's wet and it's just like this insane sort of raw moment. I'm weeping again because I'm like, I'm grateful that I'm here. I'm grateful that they let me in. I'm grateful that I just felt this. The haka made me feel this overwhelming sense of emotion and connection to this place. And then I'm like, this is my life. This is my job. There were so many moments where we couldn't have been there. Like I could have stopped. It was too hard. No one was going to give me a chance. So there's like multi levels of feeling gratitude and feeling connection. And to me, that's what travel is. So going back to your question of, do I feel comfortable being vulnerable? Yes, because my crew know me. I've been filming with them for years. They know I this season in particular, we've grown our crew. So it went from a crew of 3 to a crew of 6. We finally have a sound person. I have a producer. I used to have to do all these other jobs. So when I was filming, I was thinking of other things, and I wasn't 100% as present as I could have been. And you don't know that as an audience, right? You're just watching the show. You have no idea. As we started filming seasons 7 and 8, because we filmed all 11 episodes at once and then have been splitting them up for edits, even my crew was like, Mickela, this is really magical because you're the most present we've ever seen. Because I haven't had to worry about our next shoot. Are we on time? There's someone else doing that. I've realized, okay, if I ask for more money or we find more money, we invest it back into the show. You've seen the production values increased dramatically.
A lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Myself as a host, I feel like I'm the most present and I'm doing the best job I've ever been able to do, I think.
Not that it was lesser before, but it just feels like you keep raising the bar in this season. And I really felt it, and it comes through on the screen, in my opinion.
Thank you. And that's our goal, is like being vulnerable, I think, is my superpower for the show. Because when I run into fans and when I talk to people, they come up to me and they're in tears. Or they get emotional because they're like, oh my gosh, Mickela, when you did this, and they feel like they're my friend. Like they know me.
Yes.
They're complete strangers to me, but we have this connection because they feel like they've had this they've had a shared experience with me. Not that they feel like they do. They have this shared experience with me through the screen. And if I can convey that sense of bringing them in with me so much that they get emotional, then I'm doing my job right. Because I don't want to hide the moments when I'm crying. There's a moment in our accessibility in the arts episode, and I did not want that episode to feel sad, because I know when people think of accessibility or people with disabilities, there's a lot of pity and there's like a lot of it's like I don't want a pity party. I grew up in the disability community. My sister has cerebral palsy. She's a wheelchair user. You are an advocate. When you grow up in the disability community, you have no choice. You have to be an advocate for people with disabilities. So I wanted to show the joy and the normalcy of like how funny and, people can be jerks and people like they're humans.
Yes.
That's just what it is. And so we show that. And even my crew, because a lot of them did not grow up in the disability community and felt this apprehension of how do I approach someone in a wheelchair with a disability? And by the end of filming our 6 segments in Denver, in Cleveland, and in New York, they're like, this was the best experience I've ever had. And I feel a purpose in advocating for people with disabilities, but also like approaching people with disabilities. I'm not scared. Like they were like, I'm so scared. I didn't know what to do. I felt like they were very fragile, But there is a moment where I get very emotional. And that's the only time of the whole 28-minute episode where I break down, because I'm taking a class, this really fun class called Feel the Beat, where they wired the floor. Basically, it's vibrations, it's bone conduction, so that people who are deaf and hard of hearing can feel the music. And it's the most incredible experience. But then they've also elevated it, so now it's a class for people with all disabilities, so wheelchair users and non-disabled kids and folks. So I got so emotional because I was like, if I had a class like this that I could take with my sister. Yeah. And I never, as a kid in the 80s, 90s, you're not like, oh, I'm going to take a dance class and my sister who's a wheelchair user is also in my dance class. That wasn't even like a possibility. And this school, Feel the Beat, did that. And I was not expecting to feel this, huge. I felt like Mickela was 7 again or 6 again. And here's my older sister who was 11. And if I had that experience, how amazing would that have been together? And we would dance at the house together, but to do it in a space that was made for a dance class. And it was this uncomfortable, powerful moment of me. You can see it, this wave of grief, but also like elation of that it exists. And I just really have a very, very vulnerable moment. And my crew I feel safe with them. And they know when that's coming and they see it. And so when it was time to edit that, my editor put that piece together, and I hadn't seen it yet because I don't go through the footage. So I made notes, and they cut it to make it so it wasn't such a long moment, because it was a really long, it was like 20 seconds. That's a lot in television to feel that uncomfortableness and like that relief of, or release of grief, right? And I said, don't you dare cut that down.
Wow.
Put all of that in there. I want not to be like poor Mickela or poor. I said, I want you to understand the power that this school has for families, for kids with disabilities, for siblings in a family with disabilities. Like, this is the powerful shit. This is the powerful stuff that people who are watching need to understand how much it impacts. I'm 43. I was picturing myself 40 years ago, 35 years ago as a potential with my sister in that moment, right? And I think feeling comfortable enough to say, show that really ugly, like I look ugly in a beautiful way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. I think that's important. So sorry, that was like a long explanation, but I want to show people that it's okay to feel that when you're traveling, and you sit in it, sit in that uncomfortability. And that episode's been airing right now. By the way, July is Disability Pride Month. So the PBS member stations are going to be airing that again for Disability Pride. And we have gotten an overwhelming response from that episode. And it's not a typical Bare Feet episode, because usually we do food, dance, all these other things. We did all 5 episodes just featuring professional disabled artists, education for artists and students with disabilities, the audience experience for folks with disabilities. So it's not a typical Bare Feet episode. And we did that on purpose because I thought we just need to show, we asked the question, what does accessibility mean here in the United States? We're going to tackle that because I can. I'm the boss, I'm the EP, I'm the host. I can make that decision. And right now, we did not anticipate what was happening here in the United States right now, where they're pulling back programs, cutting Medicaid, folks who are disabled and participating members of the community who bring so much to the community that are going to lose their capability to just exist. You know, it's frightening. It's dangerous. It's really scary. And what I hope with that episode is showing there is no reason to think that folks who have disabilities of a lot of levels, varying levels, should just be put in a home, in a nursing home, and just be put away and disregarded. And the disability community is the only minority community that any one of us can become a member of at any point in our lives. And that's the truth. So that is why, like, that accessibility in the arts episode is so important to me. And I think it's one of our most important episodes we've ever made, ever.
I have nothing else to add to what you said. I couldn't agree more. I guess there's one thing that I would say to that is just simply everyone becomes richer when we're all included.
Yeah.
Simple as that. And it doesn't matter who they are, what their background is, or what their so-called disability might be. We're all richer by having these people in our lives, in our societies, and in our family.
I was at WITS, which is Women in Travel Summit recently, and there was an incredible panel about accessibility. One of whom is Cumel Arroyos, and he works for the MTA. He's head of accessibility for the MTA, making by 2050 all stations will be fully accessible. And that sounds like a long way. And he was telling me, he's like, I could half that time if we cut service to some of these lines, but we're trying not to cut service. So we're working as quickly as we can. But he said, I want to separate the idea of accessibility and disability. Only because he's like, think about when you have tourists come in and they're traveling with a suitcase and they can't get through the turnstile. Or think about a mom with her baby stroller, can't get down the stairs with her baby. You know, he's like you said, everybody benefits when it's inclusive. And if you want to think about the disability community, I want to think about the disability community, but some people don't. And so if you put into perspective of there's other people this will benefit, including yourself.
Yeah.
Including yourself.
Yeah.
then maybe they'll jump on board. And that's just like, what is it? Putting a spoonful of sugar, putting sugar with the medicine. Or,
right. Spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down.
Yeah. You're sneaking in the medicine with the sweets and yeah, it's a whole varying level of this discussion, but just the idea of making a space and a place accessible. Also, innovation, technology always starts with the disability community, and then everybody else benefits. Like voice activation, Siri, those are all things invented for the disability community, for people who couldn't type, right? And now everybody uses it. Everyone uses Google, Alexa and Siri and all those things. So
fascinating.
Yes.
Mickela, your season 7 of Bare Feet is airing right now on PBS. Thank you so much for being on the show. It's just, it's always such an inspiring conversation when you come on the podcast. And I never know what direction we're going to go in, because you're such a you're such an articulate and intelligent person that we're always going in new different directions, and it makes it.
I wish we would talk more about food. I'm sorry, I always hijack it.
We actually talked a lot about food, but but it's so interesting to me and so much fun. I hope you'll come back when the 8th season comes on and we can go into more detail about New Zealand and Cuba and these other places that you went to.
I would love to. By the way, you need to go to Taiwan because it's some of the best food I've ever had. Tainan City. We're doing a whole episode in Tainan City. You would love it. Just putting it out there. And yes, I would love to come back. We'll talk about that for season 8.
Okay, that's Mickela Mallozzi. What a great conversation with her. I could talk all day with Mickela, and we almost did. In addition to what you heard, Mickela and I talked about the food and music in Lafayette, Louisiana, as well as quite a bit about Cuba. And you can hear that entire conversation, over an hour's worth, available to members of my Substack. You can sign up at destinationeatdrink.substack.com to get that. And the new season of Bare Feet with Mickela Mallozzi is airing on PBS. Her website is travelbarefeet.com. Well, that's it for this week. Next week, we're in Delhi, India, for a market that makes you sneeze. The street of fried bread, and American spicy versus Indian spicy. Until then, there's tons of foodie travel at destinationeatdrink.com. I just posted a new video. This is the first video in my Italy road trip series, and it starts in the heel of the boot of Italy, Lecce. I tried the unique coffee drink of Lecce, a bread born out of poverty, and a delicious local treat. Watch that by clicking on the video tab at destinationeatdrink.com or go to my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/@destinationeatdrink946. I also posted a brand new story. This one is about a delicious treat in Malta called the Honey Ring. It's a sweet and chewy treat, and you can find out all about it and see plenty of pictures at destinationeatdrink.com/blog. Destination Eat Drink is distributed by the Radio Misfits Podcast Network and Ed Silla. Thanks, Ed. I'm Brent Peterson. I'll see you down the road.
Join us next week for another culinary adventure on Destination Eat Drink, a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.